Hi guys, it is Tuesday, and this is Tuesday's lesson for those of you who are virtual today. So it is also Happy National Popcorn Day. So try to pop you some popcorn today in celebration of National Popcorn Day. All right, we will be starting, continuing Module 2, but starting the Odyssey, which is our new book. So I want you to pause the video and open up a copy of the Odyssey. It is under classwork at the top of the page. It's not under Module 2. Once you have that open, then you can push play back on the video, please. All right, verbs. A verb expresses action or shows a state of being. Verbs, this should be review from when you were in elementary school. Think of action words. It can also be like linking verbs and helping verbs, like were, become. Those are also verbs. So here's some examples. The snow drifts gently to the ground. Drifts is your action word, and it's also the start of your predicate. I crunch through the snow. Crunch, that is your verb. The world becomes silent. Becomes is your verb. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video on a piece of paper. Go grab you some paper and a pencil and number 1 to 10, and I want you to write down the one verb that you see in each of these sentences, 1 through 8. I want you to write down all the verbs that you see. Pause the video, and when you are finished writing them down, then you can push play, and I will tell you the answers. All right. Number 1, the verb is predicts. Number 2, the verb is buys. Number 3 is puts. Number 4 is looks. Number 5 is scatters. Number 6 is feel. Number 7 is listen. And number 8 is. Our questions for this lesson, our focusing question is, how does the Odyssey exhibit the genre expectations of the monomyth? That question should look familiar because when we read Ramayana, we substituted in Ramayana instead of the Odyssey for that focusing question. The content framing question is, what do I notice and wonder about the Odyssey? So we're going to watch a TED Talk video. And what do you need to look for in the video? I want you to write down on that same piece of paper that you wrote your verbs down. I want you to copy down, push pause on the video, copy down these 3 questions, and I want you to answer them while we watch the video. So go ahead and pause it and write these down. All right, so you're going to look for the answer to these 3 questions. Number 1, what do you notice about how the stages begin and end in a monomyth? Number 2 is, where does most of the action take place in the monomyth? And number 3, how does the monomyth circular or cyclical structure divide it into 3 phases? And those will make more sense when we watch the video. So those of you who are learning virtually, what you're going to have to do to watch the TED Talk video, you're going to pause this video. You're going to look underneath classwork close to where you found the Odyssey, and you need to watch the TED Talk video that's posted there. After you have watched it, maybe even 2 times, and you've answered your 4 questions, then you'll come back to watch the rest of the lesson. So pause the video and do that. If you don't watch that video, that TED Talk, the rest of the lesson may not make sense to you. Okay, so now that you're back, I'm assuming you watched the video, the TED Talk video that was posted under classwork, and you've answered your 3 questions. We're going to go over the answers to those 3 questions in just a moment. But if you were interested in that video and you want to watch a music video that you may have heard of that kind of shows that cyclical monomyth expectations, you can watch Taylor Swift's video for Cardigan. You just have to YouTube it and you can watch it, but Cardigan by Taylor Swift, that video is really neat and it kind of shows the idea of a hero's journey. All right, so your first question is, what do you notice about how the stages begin and end? Well, they begin and end in the same place, the hero's ordinary world. So they begin at the same place that they end. For number 2, where does most of the action take place in a monomyth? Most of the action takes place in the unknown. dangerous world that the hero must navigate if he is to fulfill his quest and receive his reward. And then the third question, it asks, how does the monomyth circular or cyclical structure divide into 3 phases? Well, the hero's journey, the first part begins in the hero's ordinary world. The hero is presented with some type of challenge or is called on an adventure and then leaves for a world with which he's not familiar. So that would be like the first phase. The second phase or part of the journey is in this unknown world that's full of enemies and danger. And this world repeatedly tests the hero. But the hero is ultimately victorious. And that is the second part. Now, the third phase of the journey, this is when the hero returns back to his ordinary world. But because of his experiences, he's now a changed person. And for the better, he may be wiser, stronger, smarter, braver, something like that. But he's different than when he started his journey. So what do we know so far about the genre expectations for the monomyth? I want you to pause the video and list some things that you know. Think back to what we learned in Ramayana and what you've learned in the TED Talk video. So pause the video and list the things that you know so far about what to expect when we read the genre of the monomyth. Okay, now that you've made your list, let's compare it to mine. The monomyth follows a cyclical structure. The hero begins and circles back around and ends where he began. Another expectation we see in a monomyth are the different archetypes. We talked about in Ramayana, the hero archetype, the shadow, the mentor, the ally, the shapeshifter. So you expect to see these archetypes within the monomyth. And just a reminder, monomyth means one hero's journey. Another thing you may have added to your list is the hero leaves his ordinary world and he undertakes a quest in an unknown world that tests him repeatedly. And because he passes these tests, he returns home to his ordinary world with some type of reward. And you also may have added to your list the hero experiences transformation from the journey. He becomes wiser, stronger, braver, more virtuous because he's faced his fears and he's conquered his demons, whatever they may be. So the Odyssey that we're going to read, the version we're going to read is written by Gillian Cross. And but the original myth, it's an ancient myth originated in Greece, and it was composed by Homer in verse, which means it was written in poetry form. When you become a sophomore in high school, I believe it's a sophomore, you will be reading the Odyssey and you'll be reading it in its poetry form. So hopefully, and I remember when I read it in high school, I struggled with it. And I wish I would have had to have read the Odyssey in middle school to prepare me for it. So the version that we're going to read is written in prose, which means it's not written in poetry form. It's written like a story, and it's written on a 6th grade level, and it has beautiful illustrations, very interesting illustrations by someone named Neil Packer. But it was originally told by oral storytellers, and it was only written down in Greek many, many years later. So let's read the intro on page 9. So we'll go to our book that you should have opened at the beginning of class, and you can kind of skim through the pages. We're going to start reading on page 9, but I want you to look at some of these pictures. Here's the title page, the dedication page. This continues another dedication page. And another dedication page. Here's the table of contents. It has the names of our different chapters. It's a really cool illustration. Another illustration. So let's read this page. Out of the mysterious past comes this tale of human endurance, full of unknown dangers and terrifying monsters. It tells the adventures of a man who spent 10 years fighting the anger of the raging sea as he struggled to sail home. This is the story of Odysseus of Ithaca, cleverest of all the kings of ancient Greece. So now that we've read the intro, that's the introduction. It's loading. Okay, so the author lets the reader know in this introduction that we're about to read a tale of human endurance in which a man spends 10 years struggling to sail home. So, based on these contextual clues, why might this myth be titled The Odyssey? Well, first of all, we need to know what the word Odyssey might mean. Odyssey means an extended journey or quest. So the quest is less about the adventure and it's more about the personal transformation the person experiences along the way. So as you look at the details on page 9, what details does the author include that kind of helps us establish the context for the story? Well, the introduction establishes that the story is going to be about the dangers a man faces as he fights the seas on his way home. So this establishes for us the story's main problem. It also introduces the main character, Odysseus. It emphasizes his defining traits. It says he's the cleverest of all the kings of ancient Greece. And it also gives us the context for the setting, which is in ancient Greece. So we're finished looking at the Odyssey for today, and we're going to finish up today's lesson. You should spend the rest of this class time doing the Ed puzzle that is under Module 2, and it is more practice on verbs. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to Miss Maddox or to Miss Rodas. Have a good day.